This is a walkthrough of the McGraw-Hill AP Social Studies curriculum here at KIPP, Texas Public Schools, specifically for AP World History. So the two main documents you will need for instruction throughout the year are going to be your AP World History Week at a Glance, or WAG, and your teacher manual for the Bentley Traditions and Encounters textbook through McGraw-Hill. We'll start off, where are your planning resources? The first location to look for resources is going to be your KTX drive on Google Drives. To get there, you'll go to your Google Drive. Under shared drives, you'll see a folder that says KTX curriculum. You'll click on high school, social studies, and then AP World History to get to your main course folder. In this main course folder, you'll find things like your WAG, your content builders, as well as your AP course and exam description from College Board. You'll also see your unit folders. Something to note is that McGraw-Hill references the units as parts on their platforms. You'll see instead of Unit 1, Part 1. However, to kind of standardize things across AP courses, you'll see folders and file names referencing unit instead of part. So we'll click on Unit 1 to get to those resources. In the unit folders, you'll see things like your part, opener, and closer teacher manual PDFs. The opener will have things like thematic essays and some activities to help get a bigger picture of the unit, while the closer is just the answer key for those unit AP practice questions that are in the textbook. You'll also see things like your end of unit or CIA assessment resources and your chapter folders. Within the chapter folders, you'll find your PowerPoint slides from McGraw-Hill, a copy of that PDF teacher manual to help guide instruction planning, as well as your daily exit tickets and their keys. The teacher answer keys have the word key on them. The second place that you'll want to look for your planning resources is the McGraw-Hill digital platform. You'll access this by going to Clever, clicking on Social Studies, and then the McGraw-Hill icon. It should just automatically log you in. If it doesn't, you would type in your KIPP Texas email address, your password, and hit login. For AP World History, you'll be using the Bentley Traditions and Encounters program. Kind of looks like this. You'll want to go ahead, click on it to open up the program. To get to your chapter course resources, just go ahead and click the open button that shows up. And then this will list all the chapters and parts. So for example, if I needed to see the resources for chapter 1, I'd click on that. Each chapter landing page has this little tab at the top that says lesson info. Here I can get a real quick overview of it. You have way more detailed information in the actual PDFs on your teacher manuals, but this is a brief overview of what this chapter is about. Then you have your benchmarks here. This is where it lists out the explicitly aligned key concepts from the CED that you would see. It might not tell you by day, but it tells you what's in that chapter. As you scroll down, you'll see the first thing that says student resources. Here is where you access your ebook version. It's also the same version students see. If you click on it through the chapter landing page, it takes you directly to that chapter within the textbook. Scrolling down further, you have your chapter assignments. The first thing you'll see is that content review section. This is where we pulled our daily exit ticket questions from. You could also use this for things like additional CFU questions. You have your chapter PowerPoints here if you wanted to present directly from the platform or you needed to download that PDF, that's right there. Going further down, you have things like map activities where you label parts of a map, or you have some sources here. For AP World History, these sources do not come with questions, so you get to decide how you would incorporate them within, say, your direct teach. Another thing under chapter activities would be this AP exam practice. This just takes you to the part of the ebook, see right here, ebook, that has your end of chapter practice questions students could do. And the final part of the McGraw-Hill platform to find for resources is teacher resources. This is also where you get that PDF of the teacher manual, also located on the KTX drive for you. This third resource kind of place to find is that teacher manual. And this is one of your main ways of understanding how to plan for instruction for these days when you're looking at a chapter. The first part where it says chapter emphasis, that's going to be your more detailed overview of the chapter and what you should focus on when you are looking at internalization and planning out your direct teach and discussion, kind of narrowing it down for students. It will also include this thing called class thematic topics. These are your discussion questions that you would incorporate, and you'll see on the WAG kind of these bigger topics to really guide students through the content. And then you'll have your activities when you scroll down. These are going to be things students could do in pairs, in groups, individually. You'll get to decide that, and it gives some degree of instructions to help guide your planning on how to execute this activity. The final part of the teacher manual will give you your vocab. Students should kind of be able to know these words and use them in writing by the end of a chapter. If students need additional geography skills, there is a resource there as well. So that we know where we get our planning resources, let's actually break down the lesson components that are on your WAG. The WAG is your key navigational tool for AP World History, right? We see it. It will try to get all the components together in one place so you kind of understand a daily lesson focus and what components to leverage. The top part of the WAG will kind of provide our guidance on what to focus for each day. So you'll see your unit number that is explicitly, and your chapter that is explicitly from the McGraw-Hill platform. So for example, AP Core Prelude chapter, that's what you would see in the McGraw-Hill platform. While this day is dealing with chapter 1, the resurgence of empire in East Asia, it would be under unit 1, part 1 on the platform. These links here will take you directly to the chapter landing page if you are already logged in. If you're not logged in, it will take you to the login page. Next, on this top part of the WAG, you'll see it circled day number. So McGraw-Hill does not break chapters down into individual lessons or days on a calendar. KIPP Texas took their suggested pacing, examined the learning objective correlations to the text sections, and then we created a pacing plan for kind of how to break down the chapters into individual days. So when you see day 4, that meant there were 4 days recommended to teach the Prelude chapter. Or in the case of the next one, day 1, this is the first day to teach chapter 1. And right next to it, to kind of guide what to include within this day, you'll see these textbook page numbers. So for example, this day should be focusing on the content that is in pages 21 to 28. Something to note is that these page numbers are the physical textbook page numbers, and they'll help narrow down what content should be taught that day. So on the ebook, these are the page numbers you kind of see towards the right side as you scroll down. You will say page number so-and-so. The numbers at the top here are part of their navigation system, and they are not used because they are not standardized across all computer views. So what you may see as 424 might not be what someone else sees on 424. So you'll always see us reference the page number towards the right and the physical textbook. Also at the top part of the WAG, you'll see a direct link to the teacher manual that is on the KTX drive of the platform as well. And we'll tell you kind of what pages to reference within that manual. Underneath it, you'll see the focus standards. These are the content learning objectives from the CED that correlate to that section of the McGraw-Hill textbook that we recommended covering. If you want to drill down to specific key concepts from the CED, you can use the lesson info for the benchmarks tab. You can use the AP correlation PDF that's on McGraw-Hill to narrow down by page number there, but we just gave the overall learning objectives. Something to note is McGraw-Hill does not provide a correlation to those historical thinking skills. So what we recommend you do is go to the standards progression. We've provided a basic idea of what skills might be a focus on for a unit. Select one skill per a day to really focus on within the lesson, such as making connections across events. The last part of this top part of the WAG is your daily lesson objectives. So the WAG will provide a daily lesson objective based on the recommended section of the McGraw-Hill textbook. This is done to kind of help chunk the chapter into smaller, achievable objectives for students that are way more explicit in what historical knowledge they need to know and the level of rigor they're going to need to engage in with that content. So this year, instead of just giving the lesson objective as the CED, we broke it down to these smaller chunks of daily lessons, and they're very tied into the content. Moving on in the WAG. The lesson activities section of the WAG is next. It will walk you through the suggested components of a daily lesson using the McGraw-Hill instructional resources. So the first part, the heart of this curriculum, is something called the Smartbook assignments. And we recommend doing that as your do now launch period. And this idea of the Smartbook is an adaptive reading tool to kind of help students commit historical content to long-term memory. The WAG will tell you right here the exact components that should be added to your daily Smartbook assignment. You do not want to assign a full chapter at one time. You're only assigning what is on the day's WAG and what is listed. And remember, this is the do now and launch portion of the lesson. Students should walk into the classroom, take out their laptops, and immediately begin the assignment by logging into Clever, or you can put it in your Google Classroom. If a student doesn't finish it, the expectation is they do it during homework or doing the AI time. The Smartbook is the critical part of the McGraw-Hill curriculum and should not be skipped. So how do we actually make those Smartbook assignments? So to make it, you want to go into the assignment towards the left here, and then you'll go click on new assignment at the top. Then you'll go down where it says Smartbook 2.0. You'll click on that link from the assignment types. And then if I looked at the WAG, this will tell me at the top, remember what chapter we're working with. In this case, we were dealing with chapter 2. So I want to go ahead and click the chapter 2 box there, and then I'd click continue underneath. The WAG will tell me exactly which sections or concepts that need to be selected. So in this case, we're doing a prophet in his world, both sections. So in the Smartbook thing, I'm looking for a prophet in his world, and I want to do both sections here. So I'm going to go ahead, click both of those. It will tell you over here kind of an estimated guess. It could take 9 minutes up to 14 minutes, depends on the student. And once you're done selecting it, you click continue. From here, we'll go ahead and put our assignment name, something the student could recognize. Then we'll scroll down and we'll enter our start date and our end date. On the WAG, this was set to be assigned on August 26th. I'll put that in. I would give my students until Friday to complete it for homework or AI. Then I'm going to give it the number of points it's out of. I usually do 100 because it's an easy number to work with. If I have a Google Classroom, I can click this and upload it directly to the Google Classroom platform for students to click on. And then when I'm done, I'll click assign. So in order to actually preview the questions myself and see what students might see, or if I need to copy and paste it because our internet's not working, we'll go back to assignments and then click on the assignment name. From there, you'll click content at the top, this tab, and then we'll scroll down to where it says content assets, the Smartbook content link. You'll click on that and it will bring you to the preview of that Smartbook assignment. Remember, McGraw-Hill recommends students actually start with questions first versus just going in cold reading. So you want to start with the questions, you look at the question, it'll take you to that section of the text, you read it, go back and answer, get the next question, go back and read the text again, and they'll end up interacting multiple times. So the next part of the WAG is going to be your direct teach and discuss. This is more of an interactive section, and this is where you will use the McGraw-Hill slides that are on the drive or the platform to kind of cover the key concepts from the suggested textbook pages. This is your time to directly cover content. You'll want to teach any historical thinking skills explicitly and really discuss and interact with the content. The related slides are listed, so slides 4 through 13, as well as the corresponding textbook page numbers to help find out what content you'll be teaching. In this case, you're doing textbook pages 71 to 77. We need to cover the content there. The WAG will also tell you which class thematic topics to discuss using this section. In this case, we're going to go to page 42 to 43 of the teacher manual, and we want to incorporate topics 2 to 3 in the planning. So I'd read these guys, figure out where they fit in the content, and put them into the slides. The McGraw-Hill slides do not provide scripting or CFU questions. So during internalization, you will need to familiarize yourself with the content from the textbook pages, plan your script, and incorporate the class discussion topics and check for understanding questions. This is a really great time to use those KTX engagement strategies as well to make this very interactive. Sometimes the WAG suggests lesson activities that are directly in the textbook. These are generally, you'll see primary source and secondary source analysis activities. When you see them, they'll have a TXT text page and it'll tell you what number after the title to help you kind of find the activity within the chapter. So in this case, we're going to look for sources from the past, the Quran, or we would use what's left out on page 73. I gave a choice here using either of these. So to do that, we would go to the ebook within McGraw-Hill. As soon as you log into your course, it is one of the first options. From there, we'll want to go to our table of contents. Over here, it's towards the left with the 3 lines and dots. Then we'll go to the chapter 2. Click this little triangle to drop down. And then I'm looking for that title that was on the WAG, which was sources from the past, the Quran. I'll go ahead and click that, and it will bring me to the activity. So your KTX drive does have a physical PDF of the previous edition of the textbook. So if you need to print a copy of this activity, you would go through chapter 2 and find it. The title's the same, so it should be easy to locate. If your school has purchased a physical edition for the current textbook, you would find the activity on pages 75 up here to 76. So as you scroll, you'll see reading comprehension questions embedded into the activity. You would decide, are students reading this individually or in a group, whole class? And at the bottom where it says for further reflection, you see some overarching questions students would use the text to answer and reflect on. Something to note is the teacher manual does not provide an answer key to the textbook activities. So you would have to answer these yourself as part of internalization when you're creating your exemplars. The WAG will also tell you when to incorporate activities from the teacher's manual. You'll see it will look like this. It will provide you with the activity number and the title, as well as the page number, which is linked, to kind of help you locate it within the teacher manual. For example, it is suggested to do activity number 3, argumentation, located on page 35 of the teacher manual. So I would go to the teacher manual, page 35, and look at activity 3. I would read the description. I would need to decide what student-facing materials I might need to create, as well as what student-facing instructions I'm going to need to create so students understand how to do this activity. Some activities will have greater degree of instructions versus others. It's really up to you as the teacher to decide how to incorporate this and do it with your students in your classroom based on what fits. The third place you'll find lesson activities are on the McGraw-Hill platform. The activities linked on there are generally primary or secondary sources, and you'll notice the WAG will link directly to their PDF reader. So we would click on this to get the source. You would need to determine kind of what questions you want to ask about the source. Maybe they'll do a hippo, maybe they'll do soapstone, maybe you will have reading comprehension. It really depends on what you need with your students, as McGraw-Hill does not provide the questions or instructions for those online activities. The next part of your kind of WAG are the daily exit tickets you'll see here. For the most part, these questions come from the chapter content review bank that is on the McGraw-Hill digital platform. The WAG will provide the question numbers from the platform in case you would like to make an assessment on the platform and leverage its auto grade feature. At this time, we cannot directly send the assessment through McGraw-Hill's platform. Hopefully in the next year we can. So you'll notice this particular exit ticket uses the Chapter 3 content review, and it will use questions 5, 14, 16, 17, 19, 40, and 42. So how do I make this in McGraw-Hill? Well, to do, you would go to Assessments and then click on New Assessment. You would give it a title that students could recognize, such as the day's lesson, exit ticket. And then I want to click Existing Question. Almost all the questions on the exit tickets are existing. In the event there was something added, you would click New Question and copy and paste over from the PDF. But I would click Existing Question. Then I want to click Questions. And then from Select Bank, I would scroll down to find the chapter I am dealing with. So this says Chapter 3 Content Review. I'm scrolling down until I find Chapter 3, World History Content Review Questions, and I'm clicking on that. Then I would go through and select the questions it tells me to, these numbers. So 5, 14, 16, 17, 19. And then click Add at the top. Something to note is it only shows 20 questions at a time. So I have to do one page at a time. I would add these, then go to the page that has 40 and 42 and click Add as well. Once they are all added and I'm happy with it, I would go ahead and click Assign at the top to students and do the same thing that I kind of did with the Smartbook to pick the date, the points, etc. Other assessments you'll see are the AP progress checks. They are on the WAG. It will say AP progress check part 1, 2, 3. Some units have 3, some have 4. It really depends on the length of the unit. It will give you the Illuminate link right here. It will give you a student PDF version where we printed it out from Illuminate in case there is a technology issue. These should be given online so students have at-bats with the testing. And the last thing it will give you is this assessment analysis, which is your assessment's blueprint. It gives you the Illuminate link, as well as it tells you where we pulled these questions from. So for example, we used the progress check from AP Classroom, numbers 1 through 3. It will tell you if we add questions. It will also tell you if any questions were modified. This assessment analysis is actually for the entire course, so you could go through every single assessment for the course, and there is an item tracker that lets you know what has been used and what is up for grabs if you need additional questions. For AP World History, the end of unit and the CIA are generally the same assessment. So these are cumulative assessments with questions primarily pulled from the AP McGraw-Hill question bank, provided for those part assessments. So at KIPP Texas, you'll see the part referred to as a unit and the cycle exams referred to as a CIA. Well, the AP end of unit and assessments for unit 1 and 2 fall during CIA 1 and 2 times. So you will see it called CIA 1. Just know it is the end of unit exam to kind of help standardize across other AP courses. So something the AP end of unit and CIAs will come with are these FRQ scoring guidance and sample responses to help you norm on how to score any SAQ, LEQ, or DBQ writing tasks. These provide the scoring guidelines, so it will give you the rubric for the task. It will provide you an exemplar response with a scoring rationale. So here is our highest bar for students. Here is why it earned the point. It will provide you with 5 additional responses and a space for you to kind of score on your own, take notes so you can understand why you thought this got it. And then finally, it has an answer key. So you can check how well you did scoring. It will give you the student response again, and then it will tell you why it earned a point or it didn't. And that concludes the main components of our AP World History McGraw-Hill curriculum walkthrough.